Hello my friends and welcome to the channel. In this video I would like to go over a few more quality of life features, but instead we're going to be focusing on the UI elements in the HUD layout settings. So the plan for this video is to just recreate my current HUD layout and just give you some pointers along the way to why I'm doing certain things. So without further delay, let's just dive right in. Okay, let's begin. So we're in a trust dungeon just to show you the party list here because it gives you a good understanding of where I'm placing those UI elements. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this HUD layout, this one right here. So this is the current one that I use, and I'm going to recreate this with this HUD layout. So let's begin. The first thing that I want to go over is I want to have all of my information kind of be in the same place. So what do I mean by that? I kind of want to unify all my information, like my hotbar, my targets, HP, and all their cast times and all that kind of stuff, and my party list. I kind of want this all in the same place. The problem with the default is because all of this information, the hotbar information, is here, and my target is up here, and then my party list is up here. So that's a lot of my eyes just sort of darting around my screen for no really particular reason other than because it's the default UI. So that's honestly the theme of my HUD layout and why I do it. So now that I have clarified that, let's just begin and fix this up a bit. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a hotbar 3. That's obvious. We need a hotbar 3. The second thing we're going to do is experience bar. We can either get rid of this or we can just drag it to the bottom. It doesn't really matter. Next thing, I want to just drag the parameter bar over there, and I'm going to get rid of the cross hotbar because that's not needed for now. If you're a console player or controller player, then you might have a useful cross hotbar, but that's more up to you and how you want to place that. So I'm just going to put all of my information, my hotbars, down here. So I'm just going to put it all down here, and that way all of this information is down here, but it's still going to be easy to see. Then I'm going to put my parameter bar here, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have my job gauges here, and I want to make these a lot less noisy because you'll see they're quite noisy. There's a lot of art going on, there's just a lot going on, and I just don't really need this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, click on the cog, and switch the job gauge to simple mode. This is just going to give me the information and nothing else. It's just going to give me the information, and that's honestly all I need. So just going to move that there, and now it's in line with my other resources. So it's in line with my HP and my MP, and it just kind of neatly goes there, right? It kind of makes sense to be there. So that's exactly why I do it. And you can do the same with any other job gauge. Like if you have, you know, this job gauge here, then, you know, you can do the same with that. Again, I don't really need this information to be as noisy as it is. So I'm just going to switch it to simple. I'm just going to put it here. And there we go. All of that information kind of in the same place, right? The next thing that I want to do is you'll see buffs and stuff. So if I use you'll see that my buffs are up here. I don't want to look up here to see my buffs. Like, I really don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my buffs down here. And now, again, that information is all in the same place. Same with enfeeblements. This is debuffs and stuff like that. Damage over time effects. All that kind of bad stuff that we don't want, but we will get in fights. And, you know, it's going to be there instead. So now when I get a debuff, it's going to be over here. Now when I get buffs, it's over here. You can also resize these to as much as you want. So to do this on keyboard and mouse, this is control and home, and it's just going to resize it by percentages every time. And you can make it really big if you want to. I personally don't really need this that big, but if you want them this big, then it can come in handy as well for that extra visual clarity. Again, I don't really need them that big, so I'm going to keep them with 100, and I'm just going to tidy them up a bit. And just like that, so far, so good. It's looking better. It's looking like an improvement. Another thing, status info bar. You don't really need this stuff too much. It's not that important. It's going to be miscellaneous buffs like your food buff and your FC buffs. Not really super and relevant buffs to combat. Like obviously you want your FC buffs when you're leveling to get EXP, and food buff is also great to get more time on your food and you know, keeping track of your food buff. That's not stuff that you really need to pay attention to in the middle of a fight. It's kind of like an afterthought. I mean, maybe if your food runs out, you want to pop food during downtime if you're doing an ultimate and you really need that extra HP. But yeah, otherwise, you don't need to constantly be paying attention to that. So I'm just going to move it here. I actually personally have it here. So, you know what, we're just going to have it there. And, you know, for the sake of the video, I'll pop some food and you'll see that the food is over here. Now, the next thing that I'm actually going to do is progress bar. And this is just in the middle of the screen defaultly. And I mean, that's great, but I kind of want to put it over here, sort of more just tightly and more neatly with my other information. And as you can see, all this information is starting to just be in the same place. And for me, that's just a lot less darting around the screen for information. So that's really handy for me. And you might even want to make this bigger if you do. Completely up to you if you just want that extra visual clarity. Now, the next thing to go over is target bar, and this is this bar here. And again, similar issue with the debuffs and buffs. It's all the way up here. I'm going to have to dart my eyes up to the top of my screen. And in my opinion, that's just completely unnecessary. And I really just don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this target bar, and I'm also going to just move these hotbars because you don't need these hotbars. These hotbars are more for like gathering or job swap hotbars or whatever. These hotbars are like personal preference, whatever you want to do with them. So I'll speak no further on that. But yeah, I want this target bar to be here. Now, a really important thing as well when you're doing your UI is to not have your UI information conflict with each other. So if I had my target bar here, this is hella conflicting. It's almost touching these buffs, but like if I was to get more buffs or more debuffs, it would like overlap, and that would be overlapping information, and it's just going to ruin your visual clarity. So the game does a good job to indicate when it would overlap with these outlines here. And as long as you're not really having these outlines too much into each other, so that, for example, should be absolutely fine. So now you'll see that my information for all of this stuff is kind of in the same place. Another one is focus target. I am a big fan of focus target. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have focus target here. When I press Shift and F, it's going to focus target me. I really like to focus target my co-tank if I am a tank. And if I'm like a healer or DPS, then I like to focus target the boss, because then I can just keep track of their cast bars if I somehow seem to untarget the boss, or the boss becomes untargetable, but you can still see the cast bars, then this can also come in real handy. Now, before I move on to anything else, I want to show you a really good setting with target bar, actually a really good setting that I have not utilized just yet, but I probably will later down the line. So that's actually, if we were to click on the target bar, click on the cog, and then display target information independently. When we do this, we're going to get 3 different elements. So we're going to do that. We're going to click save. When I target myself, it's just going to target my HP bar. That's great. It's not going to do the buffs and debuffs, and it's not going to do the progress bar either. So this can come in real handy. So for instance, if I wanted to basically have it kind of like how it already is, but maybe I don't like how small this cast bar is. If I want to keep track of the boss's cast bars, which can be a really important thing for any job, by the way, then, you know, this is too small. So I want to resize this, right? So what you can do is you can resize this, but that's not going to resize the target bar. So, you know, I'm going to resize this to absolutely max, which is 200. And now that's going to be really big. So my HP bar is not affected. My buffs and debuffs absolutely not affected. But when I cast, that is a big bar. That will be hard to miss in a raid or trial instance. So that's really going to come in handy when you catch yourself losing track of the boss and the cast bar the boss does, and it's just going to improve your visual clarity overall. So highly recommend that if you do struggle with seeing the boss's cast bar, for instance. Now, the last thing I want to actually go over when it comes to this kind of stuff, or the last few things, is pet hotbar. That's a big one. And by the way, you can customize your hotbars by simply clicking on the hotbar, clicking on the cog, and then you can sort of change what hotbar you want. So this is personalization stuff. If you want to do something fancy with your hotbar, you can do this. Personally, I like to have my pet hotbar like this, and then kind of just next to the hotbar. This is only really relevant for a summoner or a scholar, but I like to have that kind of information just next to my general hotbar, so it's just close and easy to see and keep track of. And then again, enmity list or enemy list. This is going to just show me the enemies when I aggro enemies or whatever, and I want this information again to be more central with everything else. So that's why I'm just going to put it here or put it here. It doesn't really matter where I put this, as long as it's not conflicting with other information. Remember, that's a very important thing. So I'm just going to put it here. That should do, and it should give me nice visual clarity on the enemies when we encounter them. And I will go into a quick encounter just to show you exactly what that looks like in the end result. Now, the party list, really important one in my opinion. I want this information to kind of be here, and I don't want it to be conflicting with my target HP bar, right? So I'm just going to put it up here like this. And now this information isn't all the way over here, but it's more around here. It's more central. It's less darting between my eyes and the screen. So that's just great overall. Big quality of life for the sake of my eyes, and hopefully the sake of your eyes too. Alliance list doesn't matter too much. What I like to do is just put alliance list behind the party list. So I'm just going to put both of those alliance lists behind my party list there. Again, not super important, but it can help kind of keep track of my other alliance members. And when I look at the party's HP bar, it's hard to miss the alliance list as my eyes have darted over here anyway. So if I see like both healers dead in Alliance 1, for instance, then I'll easily see that when I check my own party. The limit gauge as well, I want to probably put that above my party list, but this is personal preference, wherever you want to put this. This just makes it easy for me personally to keep track of the limit gauge as well. And then also a really important one is the duty gauge. I put this above the limit break gauge. And this is like if you're in a ad phase in a trial, and if you don't kill the ads in time, they keep filling up the boss's duty gauge. And when that duty gauge reaches 100%, it's going to enrage your party. So I like to have that information there as well. It's kind of helpful. So I'm a big fan of that too. Duty action as well. This is important. Just make sure this is in a good place. It's really annoying that you can't sort of see everything else, so you don't know if it's conflicting, but just try and put this in a good place. I think I personally have my duty action be around here, but yeah, this is personal preference. Just try and, again, keep that information all in the same place. The rest of this stuff is pretty much not important. The minimap can be important if you want to, for instance, see waymarks and stuff like that. So if you are in a fight and you want to kind of see that orientation, then you have these waymarks, right? And this is going to help you with orientation, as you can see. So that can come in handy, and I'm not going to discourage you moving the map to be where all this information is. I personally don't have my minimap around here. I have it up here, but you can use the minimap to your advantage. So if you do want to have your minimap kind of close, I've seen people like manage to put their minimap kind of in the middle of their hotbar and sort of have their hotbar split out, and that's a really good idea as well. So again, if you want to do that, that's completely up to you. If you wanted to do that, how would you do that? Quite simple. You would probably go something like this, right? You would kind of separate these hotbars to make them kind of like this. Maybe have a bottom hotbar like that. I'm not sure, just a rough example of kind of how it looks when I see other people do this. Obviously my example is awful, but this can be something that you might want to do. So now everything's sorted. It mostly looks the same as my other one, as you can see. Not much is different. Not much is different. Yeah, this is slightly different here. And, you know, I'm not going to be able to perfectly copy my other one because I couldn't fully remember. But for the most part, it's keeping a similar theme, right? All of this information is kind of in the same place. So let's just go for a spin, and we're going to have a look where that enmity list is as well. Just going to give you a quick example of how that looks as well. As you can see, it's all down here. It's easy to access information. It's not over here just being in an obnoxious place. It's in a pretty good place. So that is great. And, you know, it's just keeping all of that information in the same place. And that is the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's actually proven useful to you. Maybe you've learned something new. I would love if you could take away anything from this video. That would make my day. If you have any other suggestions, feel I've missed anything, feel something is really important and you would like to highlight it, make sure you leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear. Maybe even I could learn something new, as I've only recently learned some of these new things, like separating target information on your target bar. If you did enjoy the video, please do give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. If you aren't subscribed yet as well, I really would appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. It goes a long way for the channel and myself. If you would like to support me further, I have a few socials in the description below, especially my Discord. Make sure to join those or follow those if you are interested. I would love to have you or see you. But as I've said, that'll do it for the video. I really do appreciate your time, and until next time, take it easy, stay safe, we out, goodbye.